about first? The obvious, the book cover. The I don't know what the technical term is, but the cover jacket. It's red, like some royal red or something. This is the red that it's blood red, which is actually fitting because this book has so much blood in it, and yet uh it fits. Yes, that's the way of the warrior, which is intensely talked about in this book. Like the way, the path that you can't even deviate a little bit. That's what's so interesting. One of the most interesting parts in this book, of this book. The Book of Five Rings, written by Miyamoto Musashi. This is a really old book, and yet this is like, in a sense, a must read by everyone in the world who wants to go into the path of strategy or the path of the sword, the path of the warrior. This book really presents the work of the great Miyamoto Musashi in such a colorful way. And that's technically and literally because this is the illustrated edition I'm holding right now. This is inlaid with really beautiful paintings from the era. And this is from Arcturus Books, translated by Victor Harris. This book is a really delight to read and a must have in your collection. I would recommend highly. This could help you with your daily, your everyday. This can um, help you get into the mindset and not lightly, just heavily get into the mindset of a warrior. This gives insight about it. Gives a ton, a megaton of insight about how to be a warrior, how to walk in its path. This could help you become, a bit more uh uh what's the term? A bit more assertive. That's the term. It's it escaped me a bit, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, this could help you become more assertive in your attitude towards tasks or projects or clients, whatever. Like any good book, it is a moral decision to use this or not, but use this in good faith and as Musashi himself uh well ordered, I guess, or wrote, to be good in the way of the warrior is to not have impure thoughts or something like that. We'll see. We'll get to the quote because I'm just in the opening pages here. The all the contents of the book. You got the introduction of Japan during Musashi's lifetime. Um, that's These are really interesting sections to read, and of course, concerning the life of Miyamoto Musashi, there they talk about, or the introduction writes about his attitude, his nature. Was he an aggressive kid or not? Does he have a defensive personality and just learned how to be aggressive? And those types of stuff, really fascinating, and again inlaid with these paintings, and the pages are colorful. They're not really white like textbook white, but it It looks like it looks like you know not plain paper. Some pages, it's like a wallpaper. The texture, not the physical texture, but the visual texture of the page is like you're peering at a riverbed or something. There's all these again paintings, just paintings. It's just yeah, really really cool thing to see. So yep, that's the concerning the life of Miyamoto Musashi. And then, all right, to get to the main part, the Book of Five Rings. So there's five books. He wrote five books. The Ground Book, the Water Book, Fire Book, Wind Book, and the last one and the shortest one would be the Book of the Void. Uh, they of course they talk about different aspects of strategy. So let's take a look at them piece by piece. The chapter one would be the ground book. Oh, before that, just a really important note. There's a section here that talks about, to better understand him. Uh, let me see. It talks about the moral teachings that Musashi's lifetime, or Musashi's, the moral teachings in Musashi's lifetime. This is what he used. I think this needs to be really understood to fully grasp the way, to understand why he approaches things, and how to, understand more how the background workings of the action would go. So the moral teaching, so it's influenced by Confucianist philosophy, which shaped the Tokugawa system with the native Shinto religion of Japan. So the samurai class mingles with the Zen study, and Zen went hand in hand with the arts of war. The true nature of things. So this um um Miyamoto Musashi's approach is Zen like. It's if you don't you have to do Zen to be able to understand it. It's really complicated. So if you haven't, this book could also work if you're not a Zen practitioner, but it makes it all so much better if you have a grasp of what the Zen tradition is. Well, moving forward, um, this is its lack of anger and decisions, including things that could end your enemy's life. You do it without emotion, like in the Western philosophy, like kind of like stoicism or something, or perhaps stoicism is or was influenced by Zen, or vice versa. But anyway, they share a similar vein of reference. So um, that's it. Abandon your life or throw away fear. So like that. He wrote this in that perspective. So moving back to the books, there's more elaborative knowledge in this book, and to expounded in that, and how it affected Musashi's insights is yeah, it's a must read. Well, the ground book. Okay, the ground book is about uh the strategy. It's the craft of the warrior. This is essentially um the the mindset teachings, because in the later parts it becomes technical, like how to how to evade, how to attack, all those decisions. But this one, this is the high concept, I guess the primary concept. It's all about strategy. It's all about strategy. You don't call uh there was a passage here that swordsmen are called master strategists. They're not called just swordsmen. So it says here that commanders, so this also applies not just to small scale strategy, but also to large scale strategy. When you're handling teams to nail a project down, something like that. So this could be helpful. This book is addressed to them as well. There is no warrior in the world today who really understands the way of strategy. So that is his introduction. All right. So this talks about the way, or like as in the path that people go through our lifetimes through different paths, and you follow this path of the warrior all through his life. He was undefeated. And this is what he had to say about strategy. So just imagine that. And, yeah, he writes this essentially the ground. This is it's as if he's talking about the lay of the land, like the ground. These are the ground rules, the way of strategy. Yeah, the he wrote about some similarities about mastering your craft, whatever path you're taking in your life. If you're a carpenter, you have your own path, but um if you want to be a swordsman, if you want to follow the way of the sword, then this is his. You got to follow this book seriously without deviating. That was his instruction. He was a very, very, very stern teacher. This is like so structured. You have to structure your life, your everyday life. Being a warrior, you have to have total commitment. But the upside is you won't be beatable. But then again, each people has his or her own path in their life. So he compared the carpenter to strategy, the way of the carpenter, meaning how the carpenter just makes himself through life. So let me read some passages here. It's really interesting. Uh, the comparison with carpentry. Well, this is the quote. The comparison with carpentry is through the connection with houses. Houses of the nobility, houses of the warriors, the four houses. Footnote: the four houses refers to the four branches of the Fujiwara family who dominated Japan in the Heian period. Ruin of houses, thriving of houses, the style of the house, the tradition of the house, and the name of the house. The carpenter uses a master plan of the building, and the way of strategy is similar in that there is a plan of campaign. If you want to learn the craft of war, ponder over this book. The teacher is as a needle, the disciple is as thread. You must practice constantly. End quote. That about sums up the whole book. But that now, just kidding. It's well, from those maxims, actually, the book just expands from there. Those are the other four books. It is he what he wrote. This is in his instruction. Like, you must practice this constantly. You must appreciate this stuff like that. The book has a lot of those like tips and tricks. But then again, the teacher The needle, the student is as thread, no deviations. No deviations. So that's the ground book. That's so essentially like setting up what strategy is. Well, you gotta have strategy, you gotta have plan, and you gotta have, you gotta have knowledge, you gotta have discipline, you gotta have some form of leadership. You know how to um you know how to be brilliant in the battlefield as well as in your small tasks. So that's the ground book, chapter 1. Chapter 2, the water book. Let me quote the introduction. Quote, the spirit of the Niten Ichi school of strategy is based on water, and the water book explains methods of victory as the longsword form of the Ichi school. Language does not extend to explaining the way in detail, but it can be grasped intuitively. Study this book, read a word, then ponder on it. If you interpret the meaning loosely, you will mistake the way. End quote. So, yep, this is like the spirit section of the book. Your spiritual bearing, what kind of spirit must you embody in to be able to be an unbeatable warrior? And again, more paintings. Oh, this is one of my favorites. This is the gaze. The gaze in strategy. This is like let me quote. It says here the gaze sorry. Let me repeat that. Open quote. The gaze should be large and broad. This is the twofold gaze, perception and sight. Perception is strong and sight is weak. In strategy, it is important to see distant things as if they were close and to take a distance view of close things. It is important in strategy to know the enemy's sword and not to be distracted by insignificant movements of his sword. You must study this. The gaze is the same for single combat and for large scale combat. It is necessary in strategy to be able to look both sides without moving the eyeballs. You cannot master this ability quickly. Learn what is written here. Use this gaze in everyday life and do not vary it whatever happens. End quote. So this gaze reminds me of a, a an instruction in another book. I think it was The Art of War or something like that. About this gaze Miyamoto Musashi is talking about. It's like the metaphor is it's like a cat watching a mouse hole. That is the state of mind of the gaze that you should practice. So the far things become close and the close things becomes a little bit far. It's one of the interesting takeaways. There's I don't know if it's in The Art of War I've read that or some other book, but that is the gaze and that says a lot. That's really helpful, that gaze, to have vision and to be in that zone. To be in that zone, you have to be in that zone. That's how you should look things, sight and perception in one, and you'll be unbeatable in battle. You'll likely succeed with your endeavors. Also talks about the attitudes and the way of the longsword. This is the water book. It's like a philosophical approach still, with it's peppered with the techniques, like as in the techniques and to hit how to hit the enemy and the timing. It's really cerebral. It's a cerebral book. This the water book. How to apply stickiness. This is like the techniques, is magic stuff. Um, how to parry, to stab at the face, to stab at the heart. He's got many instructions that are really, this is the techniques themselves. And this cuts the middle, I mean, the book into We got here a huge painting that's like when you reach the middle of the book, it's a single painting depicting a war showing other kendo schools. Really nice. The water book is pretty long, and that's the water book. Next comes after the water is the fire book. Let me read the introduction. Quote, in this, the fire book of the Nito Ichi School of Strategy, I describe fighting as fire. End quote. This one is some aggro stuff. Forestalling the enemies. This is fire, the most heated part of battle. As the enemy attacks, what do you do? What do you do to uh to react, or what do you do to not die? This is essentially the battlefield, the fire book. And this there's the in the fire book you can find what he calls to hold down a pillow. It meaning that you are not allowing the enemy's head to rise. That's the spirit. How you crush an enemy, along those lines. Or yeah, the spirit. He gives tips. This is really bloody, fiery, fiery, fiery. This is a vicious, vicious book. This is some really pragmatic stuff compared to the water book, which mostly deals in a calm setting and all of that. This is fire, just aggressive nature, how to know the times, how to cross a ford, to know collapse, and how to become the enemy itself. Like think like the enemy, you find out their strategy, and when you know their strategy, then they can't defeat you. You have in this position a really, a shield that runs so deep, and uh, a flood that's you know a flood that's really unstoppable. To release four hands, move the shadow. Yeah, this is the fire book. Pretty again, lined with the paintings. It's lined with the benki. There's mentions of the warrior monks. This is the fire book. And the next chapter is the chapter 4, the wind book. Let me quote the introduction. In strategy, you must know the ways of other schools. So I have written about the various other traditions of strategy in this, the wind book. So this is observing other schools and critiquing, and just observing how to um his critique of other schools, why they're ineffective and what their lacking is, and also but recognizing the positive learnings you could learn by watching other schools of thought. This is really important. It's like testing your own discipline against other people. Perhaps they got some more effective way of doing stuff than you do, so you could benefit from observing them. It's like the wind. And they're looking at speed of other schools. He makes some critiques about them, and saying that this is him. This is Musashi just writing about other schools. This is pretty short, and followed by the last one, the Book of the Void, the shortest of them all. Literally one page here. Yep, literally one page. The Book of the Void. Let me read intro of the chapter, quote, the Nito Ichi way of strategy is recorded in this, the Book of the Void. What is called the Spirit of the Void is where there is nothing. It is not included in man's knowledge. Of course, the void is nothingness. By knowing that things exist, you can know that which does not exist. That is the void. So he writes about the unknown, the illusory nature of the world, the the realization of the true way through self-realization or by going on other schools. But this one, he writes about how the true way is realized, thinking of things in the wide sense. It is really like really a Buddhist accent, and as written before, a Confucianist Zen aspect. So yeah, this book is really packed. It's a delight to read. It is just, you can read this in a single sitting. Seriously, it's that engaging. 159 pages of huge fonts. This book should be in every library that you know, or this really is. This is a treasure, a humanity's treasure, written by, of course, the legendary Miyamoto Musashi. So check this out if you like strategy, and also The Art of War by Master Sun Tzu will, the teachings of that book also resonates in this book. So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff to read and pretty useful. And see you on the next episode. Ciao for now.